She earns around £180,000 a year. She's senior. She's trusted with decisions that matter. People come to her for her judgment. And she's never once logged into her workplace pension. Not because she's careless, not because she's bad with money, because the login was never the task. It's a doorway to about 10 decisions she has no easy way to close. This is how money quietly turns into a second job, not because the tasks themselves are difficult, because none of them ever finish. Let me show you who I mean. This is a composite, not a specific person, but it's a pattern I've seen again and again. She's in her early 40s, senior in tech or law or consulting, living in London or the commuter belt. At work, she runs things, a team, a budget with a lot of zeros, decisions with real consequences, made under time pressure. People come to her when they don't know what to do. Then she gets home. And somewhere in a browser, there's a pension portal she hasn't opened since 2019, an old pension from 2 jobs ago she's fairly sure still exists. Cash in current accounts, waiting on a decision she keeps not making. A company share scheme she's never really looked at. A pension versus ISA tab she's opened, half-read, and closed more times than she'd admit. None of it is breaking. That's the strange part. It just quietly leaks. A bit of growth here and loss there, a decision that costs more each year it stays open. That contrast is this whole episode. The person trusted all day to make hard calls can't seem to finish this one. And it's not that she can't understand any of it. She could understand any piece of it in the afternoon. It's that every time she starts, it doesn't end where she expected. The obvious response is that she could just log in, 5 minutes. On the surface, fair enough, the task itself is small. But watch what actually happens when she opens it. First, she can't even log in. She needs a policy number, which is in an email from HR 3 jobs ago, or a letter in a drawer she'd have to go and find. And she has to set up online access from scratch. So the 5 minutes job doesn't even start in 5 minutes. Getting through the front door is the first job. Say she gets in. The first real question isn't complicated. It's, am I even getting a full match? What's the company's highest match? Have I been leaving some of it on the table for years, sitting on the default? And the moment she thinks about fixing that, the next question arrives. If I put more in, what does that do to my take-home this month? Because the cost lands now, but the payoff is decades away. And it's hard to give up real money today for retirement that doesn't even feel real yet. Then she has to choose where it actually goes. And there isn't one obvious option. There are 50, with the names that blur into each other. Global Select, Global Equity, Global ex-UK. Should it be the Billy Gifford one or the BlackRock one? Both sound serious. Both sound like they know something she doesn't. She's being asked to choose between 2 things she has no real way to compare. And behind all of that sits an even bigger question she hasn't even reached yet. Is the pension even where the next pound should go? Or the ISA, or cash, or the mortgage, or the children, or the company share she's never revealed? And under everything, what if she picked the wrong one? What if she commits to something that turns out to be the wrong call a few years later? She sat down to do one small admin task. What opened up was her whole financial life, all at once with no order to it. This is the pattern. Every login opens a decision. Every decision opens a trade-off. Every trade-off touches several timelines. Every timeline has its own uncertainty. And nothing closes cleanly. I call it the Open-Loop Cascade. One small task, and suddenly a dozen loops are open, and not one of them can be safely shut. So she does the only rational thing a busy person can do with a dozen open loops and no way to close them. She closes the laptop. So that's a mechanism. One small task, a dozen open loops, none of them closing. And if you recognize it, you'll probably feel the strange part. How can I be this capable everywhere else, but still not have this sorted? The answer isn't about your capabilities. It's about when this actually gets attempted. Because none of it happens on a calm Sunday morning with a clear head and a cup of tea in your hand. It happens at 10 p.m., after the workday, after the childcare handover, after the school forms, the WhatsApp groups, the dozen small logistics that keep a household running. By the time anyone reaches their own money, the part of the brain that makes good decisions is already spent. This is the reality for most high earners with families. The income goes up, but the day doesn't get any emptier. Often it gets fuller. The career and the family peak during the same decade. So the evening she'd actually needed for this is a clear, unhurried one. An evening where she has enough left in the tank to hold 10 open decisions at once. And that's exactly the kind of evening she never gets. Seeing like that, the avoidance isn't a flaw. It's what happens when the system asks for more capacity than the day has left. One reader of my book was a senior leader in tech, sharp, successful, and in her own words, hates doing the money stuff and always procrastinate. The thing she kept not dealing with was her company shares. Cash from some of the share sales just sits there, uninvested for ages. What changed wasn't more information. It was a set of simple rules she could run every quarter without overthinking. Once the smaller, repeatable decisions had a system, she had the capacity to focus on what actually mattered, including what to do with their equity. The next decision was clear enough to act on, so she stopped stalling and just did it. She even told me that the charts in the book convinced her partner to change how he approached investing. That's the point. This audience, including you in front of the screen, isn't short on intelligence or drive. They are short on a system that carry the repeatable decisions so they can spend their time and energy on decisions that actually matter. So what does leaving all of these unresolved actually cost? In the last episode, the cost has a number you could see. Here is more hidden, which is exactly why it ends up bigger than it looks. Start with the pension she hasn't logged into. It's almost certainly in the default fund, the one everyone gets put into automatically, and most people never change it. And default doesn't mean one standard outcome. It means wildly different results, depending on which provider your employer happened to pick. Here's the real data. These are all workplace pension defaults over the same 10 years to the end of 2025. At the top, the best default grew savers' money by more than 200%. At the bottom, under 90%. Same decade, same default label. Extrapolate that kind of gap over decades, and it stops being a small difference. It becomes years of someone's retirement. And most people never made that choice in the first place. And the fund selection is only one of the things hiding behind that login. Whether she's getting the full employer match, how much is going in, the old pot from 2 jobs ago sitting on its own somewhere. Each is a lever, and every year they stay untouched is a year of growth quietly let go. Here's the thing most high earners assume about their own situation, that because they earn well, they can always catch up later. And to be fair, they often can make up for it with intensity. A few focused a year at this income level can build a lot. But the one thing more money can't buy back is the early years of compounding. The most common thing I hear from people who finally saw this out in their 40s or 50s isn't relief. It's a quieter version of the same sentence. I just wish I started this earlier. Not because they're behind, but because they can feel how much lighter it could have been if the money had been working sooner. And this isn't just about the pension. The same core cost runs everywhere. The decisions stayed open. Cash just sat earning almost nothing for 3 years. An ISA allowance resets every April, and each year some of it goes unused. That room is gone for good. Company shares that have grown into a bigger concentration than should ever have chosen on purpose. None of this is a crisis, but each is a decision left open, quietly charging across the whole financial picture. So the real cost was never about the missed login. It was the years and money spent in the wrong place, or no place at all, while she meant to get to it. The income keeps arriving, but the years only pass once. So what's the actual answer? Because it isn't try harder, she's already done that. That's what the open tabs are for. And it isn't another guide or another 50 facts about pension. She doesn't have a knowledge gap, she has a capacity gap. And if capacity is a problem, the answer is to stop asking her brain to carry all of it. The system has to carry more of the load. That means deciding where the money should go, setting rules around the choice that matter, automating what shouldn't need her attention, and creating a simple rhythm to check that it's all still working. Now, I won't pretend this part is effortless. Sitting in the hour requires real thought. You sit down and work through the decisions in the right order. What the money is for, what moves before you ever see it, what stays accessible, and what you are deliberately not doing. In practice, that might mean understanding that the pension match is part of her total compensation, so she actually pays attention to it when she's considering a new job. During onboarding, she checks the maximum match and sets her contribution. She chooses one investment approach she understands, then automates the contribution and the investing. She decides how much cash she wants to keep accessible and sets the rest to move automatically each month. She even gives herself a limit for the things she loves spending money on, eating out, shopping, whatever it is, so she doesn't have to keep a mental tally every time she spends. The next time she gets paid, those decisions don't reopen. The money just follows the rules she's already set. There's more to a full system than these few examples. I walked through the wider version in another video and mapped the whole thing in my book. Once it's running, the review is short, 30 minutes, 4 times a year. The effort is front-loaded, and then it's quiet. That's the difference between a system and a to-do list that never ends. So that's what capacity really is, not knowing everything, but having a structure that makes the next decision clearer. So logging stays the logging instead of becoming your whole financial life at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday. So instead of ending this on what you've been avoiding, you already know what that is. Let me leave you with something else to picture. Imagine the version where this is handled, not perfect, not finished forever, just designed, where the money that comes in has somewhere to go on purpose. Some of it building security, some of it kept flexible for the choices you might want later, where the decisions that keep reopening have been made once in the right order and they stay made, where the saving and investing happen automatically and the guardrails are already in place so you are not the one keeping track, where you could step back or change direction or absorb something unexpected and the structure holds because you built it too. And where opening that patient portal is just a 2-minute check, not a doorway into an evening of financial decisions you don't have. That's what this is really about, not the login, but what could be made possible on the other side of it. When your income stops being something you manage and starts being something that quietly supports the life you actually want. If that picture is what you want, the version where this is designed and then running in the background, that is the work I do directly with people. It's a short program. We build your structure together in a handful of sessions in the right order. So at the end, you're not dependent on me or a manager taking a fee every year. You just run it yourself, 30 minutes a quarter. If that's something you like, there's a link below for you to book a free call and we can discuss if this is the right fit for you. And there's a reason this matters beyond the admin, because when the system stays unresolved for a long time, something else starts to happen. The income becomes harder to step away from, even when you are more than ready to start a different kind of life. That's the next episode. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.